Hey guys, this is Chandanabi. Welcome back to our channel. From the Department of Information Science and Engineering in 6th semester, from the College of Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering at Bengaluru. Today we are discussing the subject called as in software testing. In the software testing, we are discussing the topic called as an overview assumption in fault-based testing. Please do watch the complete video and like it and comment it and share. If you're not willing to subscribe also, that's okay, fine. But still watch the complete video and like it. Based on your support, my college people gonna highlight some marks. Hope you guys gonna support to me. No more less, let's jump to the topic. Overview. Engineers study failures to understand how to prevent the similar failures in the future. For example, the failure of the Takamona bridge in 1940 led to a new understanding of the oscillation in the high wind and the introduction of the analysis of to predict and prevent such distractive oscillation in subsequent bridge design. Right. Experience with the common software faults sometimes leads to improvement in the design method and programming languages. For example, the main purpose of the automatic memory management in the Java is not to separate to programs to trouble of releasing unused memory, but to prevent the programmer from making the kind of memory management error like dangling points and redundant deallocation and the memory leaks that frequently occurs in the C and C++ programs. Assumption in the fault-based testing. The effectiveness of the fault-based testing depends upon the quality of the fault model and some basic assumption about the relation of the seeded fault to fault that might actually to be present. In practice, the seeded faults are small syntactic changes like replacing one variable reference by another in expression or changing the comparison from lesser than to lesser than that equals to. We may hypothesize that these of representation faults actually present in the programs. If the program under test has the actual fault, we may hypothesize that it differs from another correct program by only a small textual change. If so, then we need merely distinguish the program from all such small variable variants by selecting test cases for which either a original or the variant program fails. To ensure the detection of all such faults, this is known as an competent program hypothesis, an assumption that the program under test is close to, in the sense of textual difference, a correct program. Right. The fault-based testing techniques are based on the assumption that the software faults or defects exist in the code. And the goal is to be identified and locate these faults by executing specific test cases. The primary assumption in the fault-based technique is that the specific input or the condition triggers a fault. The same input or the condition will be trigger the same fault every time it is executed. Therefore, the goals of a fault-based testing is to design test cases that can be reveal the presence of the faults by intentionally providing inputs or executing the conditions that are likely to cause to fault to occur. Right. Another assumption is that by identifying the correcting faults in the code, the overall quality of the software will improve and the likelihood that error or the failure during use will be reduced. This assumption is based on the principle that software differs or the causes by coding error or oversights, and that identify the correcting the errors can significantly improve the quality and the reliability of the software. Overview of the fault-based testing. Right. The main objective of the fault-based testing is to intentionally introduce a fault or defect into the software and then observe how the system responds of these faults. By doing so, it helps to identify areas of the weakness and assist the system or the software ability to uh, handle such faults and assumption. The fault based testing is based on the several assumptions, including a software contains the faults, like assumption that our software being the tested has a faults or defects. These faults could be due to design errors like coding mistakes or any other issues. Continuing part of it, realistic faults. The fault introduced during the testing should reflect the type of faults that could occur in the real world scenarios. Right. They should respect representative of the potential issue that user might encounter. The fault have a consequences, right? It assumes that the fault in the software can be leads to specific consequences, such as the program crashes, incorrect outputs, or security security vulnerabilities. Another one is the fault or detectable. Right, the fault. What is this fault detectable? Is the fault introduced can be detected through the testing techniques and tools. Testers must have the mean of the observe that identify and the presence of a fault during the testing process. Test coverage. Fourth one is test coverage, and fault-based testing aims to achieve through test coverage by targeting various aspects of the software. This includes the different models, compacts, and interfaces, input combinations, error handling routines, and the exception scenarios. Like the goal is to ensure the software are accurately exercise exercised and the system behaves as expected in the presence of these faults. Test oracles. The fault-based testing requires the explicit oracles to determine the correctness of the system's behavior when exposed to the faults. These oracles can be derived from the specification and the requirements and the domain knowledge or the sources. They they serve as a basics for comparing the observed system response against the expected outcomes. Continuing part of it, test prior prioritization. Prioritization. The fault-based testing often prioritizes the faults based on the severity, likelihood of occurrence, or the other factors. This allows the testing to focus on the high-risk faults first and ensures the critical issues are the addressed early in the testing process. The conclusion part of it is overall the fault-based testing techniques are the important tool for the ensuring the quality and the reliability of the software system. By identifying and correcting the defects and the faults before they causes the problem and end users. Thank you guys.